factorial does not mean that much in detail unless you get a series. So it is easier if we look at factorials as some approximate formula. So that is where something called a Stirling's formula comes into place, where n factorial is approximately equal to the square root of 2 pi n times n by e, where e is the natural number, exponent number, raised to the power of n. In a more generalized sense, we have square root of 2 pi n raised to n plus half times e to the power of minus n. Right. So in general, if you look at this 2 pi, square root of 2 pi as a constant, n factorial is approximately equal to some constant times this n plus 1, n plus half power n and e to the power of minus n. Right. So when we have this as our representation for factorials, we are now equipped to compare n factorial with other equations as well. Right. So let's look at some examples for this. So let's say that I ask you to compare 2 to the power of n versus n factorial. Is n plus n half inside square root? No. The square root part comes out because of this half here. So it is n raised to power of n, right? And we have square root of n here, that is half itself, n raised to half. And we basically say n raised to n plus half. Does that make sense, Abdul Rahman? So the question was whether n raised to n plus half is within the square root. So it's not. Okay. Okay, so let's say that we are trying to compare 2 to the power of n and n factorial. Again, we apply limits where n tends to infinity. We have n factorial divided by 2 to the power of n. Now this is tricky without the Stirling formula, but now we can apply Stirling's formula to this particular equation and make our n factorial into some constant times square root of n times n to the power of n divided by e to the power of n. That is the formula for Stirling. If you guys write this down, that might be helpful, but it's in the slides as well. Okay. Now, when we have this, we can now derive this particular equation using limits by just saying that we have n raised to the power of n divided by 2e all overall raised to the power of n, and then we have c times square root of n. And we see that this tends to infinity, and that means that n factorial grows faster or is much slower than exponential functions such as 2 to the power of n. The other end also applies, that n factorial is lower bounded by 2 to the power of n, right? Okay, we can also compare n raised to n and n factorial. This becomes interesting because we have been looking at n factorials. As an approximation to n raised to the power of n, right? Stirling's formula essentially gives us this equation where n factorial can be bounded by sort of n raised to the power of n. Apart from other numbers that also depend on n, we basically have this. So comparing n raised to the power of n and n factorial. So we have n factorial and n raised to the power of n. We simplify our n factorial equation using this approximate number, some constant times this square root of n and n, and we have n to the power of n as the denominator and e raised to the power of n as the denominator. So the numerator becomes c square root n and the denominator becomes e raised to the power of n. We know that when we have e raised to the power of n, that tends to infinity much more faster than square root of n, and in infinity, we see that it is going to tend to 0. Right? We can solve this, we can derive this, but it is going to tend to 0. So in essence, n raised to the power of n will grow faster than n factorial because we have that divide by e to the power of n, right? And similarly, n factorial is upper bounded by n raised to the power of n. So that is the difference between these two equations. Any questions about the second one? Any questions about the second one? Everyone understands? Okay, so how about log n factorial? What would that be? if you have not looked into the slides yet. What do you guys think would be the bounds for log n factorial?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. So the question is, what about, so what is the bounds for log n factorial? I see n raised to n, I see n log n. Matt, I mean, technically, yes, it is little o of n raised to n, but we also have a log. We would like to have a slightly better upper limit than that, because n factorial is itself sort of similar to n raised to n. Not exactly, but sort of. Okay, so let's do this. Uh, so we have log n factorial. That essentially means we have log of c square root n raised to n divided by e to the power of n. And since it's a log, we know that those rules apply. We can add multiplications and we can subtract divisions. So we have some constant c plus log n raised to n plus half, that is n square root n, minus of log en, right? Now we can rewrite this as c plus n log n, because it is n plus half. So it's essentially n plus half times log n, that we can again simplify into n log n plus half log n, minus of log e to the power of n. We can assume that our base is e. It becomes a natural log, and that essentially becomes n, right? We talked about this property earlier. Now, since we have all of these terms, we see that n log n, and we can simplify it a bit more, but n log n is the most dominating factor in this entire equation. So in general, log n factorial, and you guys can derive it in your own time, but in general, log of n factorial has the theta bound, that is the upper and the lower bound, with n log n. That means there is some constant that grows faster than this equation when multiplied by n log n, and there is some constant when multiplied by n log n grows slower than this equation. And we can see that n log n plus n by 2 log n minus n log n again becomes sort of similar to n log n, right? Upper bounded and lower bounded by that equation. Okay. So we are basically, during these slides, we are working through the difference in the equations and the orders of magnitudes. So we are basically building up to more and more complex possibilities of equations. So here we see that n factorial has the largest bounds till now. After that, before that, we also have n raised to the power of n. Right? Then we have some constant raised to the power of n. Then we have your exponentials n cubed, n squared, and so on. Then you have n log n, which is slightly better than n, which is better than square root of n, and so on, right? So we talked about big O, big omega, big theta, small omega, but intuitively we know that our asymptotic notations for big O, it is going to be similar to less than or equal to. For big omega, it is going to be greater than or equal to. For theta, it is going to be similar, equal to, but it's not exactly, because it is bounding it in the both upper and lower bounds. Little o is always going to be smaller, barring any constant possible, and omega, I mean positive constant possible, and little omega is going to be the lower bound, barring any constant, any positive or zero, positive constant. Okay. Now, here I have a list of 6 equations. I will walk through these with you as well. But I want you guys to tell me if which of these are true and which of these are false. So let's start with question 1. That is 2n squared plus 1 being the equation. Is it bounded by big O of n squared?
True.
True. Everyone agrees? Okay. Perfect. Very good. Yes. Yes, and do what Sean did. Everyone, when you are typing in true or false, just or yes or no, just have the question number as well, so that in the chat I can make sure which one of you. Thank you. Okay, so the next one. Let's move on to the next one. square root of n, and square root of n is going to be n raised to the power of half. Now square root of n equals to big O of log of n. How about this one? True, false? False. Exactly, right? It is going to be false. Can someone explain to me why it's false? We talked about this a bit earlier. Remember? Okay, let me just go back to that slide.
Logs are like inverse exponential, so they're going to grow slower than any exponential.
Yes, but if I ask you to prove, I mean, that is correct. That is intuitively, that is correct. But if I ask you to prove it, you would need to find the limit for that thing. And we talked about this with square root of n, and we compared it to log n, right?
Right.
And we said that, yeah. Okay, that log n will be the lower bound of, and where little o of square root of n will always dominate log of n. Okay, very good. So, pardon me. If that is the case, then we can say that this is false, so true is false. 2 is false, everyone agrees, I guess, yes. Now, then log n equals to big O of square root of n. That is true, right? I mean, this one was false. Number 3 is true, everyone agrees. Now comes n squared times 1 plus square root of n, that is equals to big O of n squared log n. So what about number 4? False. Anybody else? False. Anybody thinks it's true? It can't be, right? Because that's the same thing. We have n squared plus n squared square root of n. Monica, let me, oh, okay, you are talking about number 5. Yes, number 4 is false. Number 4 is false because n squared times square root of n cannot be bounded by n squared log n, because we just talked about this earlier. Now, number 5, we have 3n squared plus square root of n equals to big O of n squared. So as Monica said, that is true, and all of you agree that this is true as well. Is there anyone who does not agree that this is true? 3n squared plus square root of n is going to be bounded by big O of n squared. And we can derive this, right? We can find out and we can prove this. Intuitively, we can prove this by having 3n squared plus of, instead of square root of n, we can have n squared again, right? N squared is going to grow faster than square root of n. So we can have n squared again. That gives us 4n squared. So some constant times n squared, and we know that it is big O of n squared. Square root of n times log of n. Is it bounded by n? True. N, it grows linearly, and both of these do not grow linearly. They are logarithmic values, right? Perfect. Okay, so let's move on. Yes. Perfect. Okay, so now we talked about these bounds and how we can compute these bounds, but we now are going to talk about certain properties and how to analyze these bounds a bit further. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is, and you can find this particular information in the book, in the comment book in page 51 and 52. So the first thing that we are going to talk about is transitivity. So transitivity means that we have a function fn, and we claim that it is theta of g of n, and we have the same function g of n, we claim that it is theta of h of n. That means that it is going to be, f of n is going to be theta of h of n, and that is what we mean by transitivity. This entire property also holds for little o